way.
I don't know how much time we have left because we spent an hour trying to figure out how to stream.
That's fine. This is all a test run to make sure everything works smoothly.
That's the purpose of the test.
That's right.
Right.
So what news are we talking about today?
How about the fact that we actually have news to talk about?
We have news to talk about.
God.
I know, right? We're going to restart because we can talk about stuff eventually.
How many months did when did BR go down? When did that happen?
You mean officially or when?
Okay, so you've got
like
nobody
every day.
playing it level, and you've got they officially stopped it. When did they actually go, okay, we're done, we're shutting down the servers? Was that not last October? No, when was that? Anyone know? Anyone in the chat know?
Was it last? Man, you know what? Actually, I probably have the last, I used to record videos or just, hit the shadow play.
Oh,
and so...
Ashes of Creation Discord, their news AOC APOC section.
Oh, there you go.
January, February, March 10th at 2 in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it got a COVID hit.
Offline.
That's what it was.
March 10th. March 10th.
Right. We're now offline from early access testing. Yeah.
April, May, June, July. We're 5 months from that point. So for 5 months, what a dark 5 months. And even before that, when you had the BR, no one was playing it. We had no MMO news at all.
Yeah.
Everyone was it was at a lowest point. Even our podcast, even us talking in the podcast, we were all Storms was done, right?
Yeah, there's not
and
a
the rest of us were just kind of dragging our feet making podcasts during that time. It was brutal.
Yeah. Dude, you know what we should do? We should go back over some of those old videos because I'm pretty sure that we covered this kind of, from front to back saying that they need to refocus on the MMO and excitement will join back up. That's exactly what they did. Yeah. So,
and look what happened, right? They took
profits.
APOC. There you go.
Yeah, I remember we were talking and I was saying things I remember talking about the fact that the Battle Royale was fine. It was worth the attempt. But if they were smart, if they were able to swallow their pride, that they should accept this loss for what it is, right? The market had spoke.
Yeah.
They gave it a shot, they gave it a chance, but the market's we don't like this game. The market spoke, and luckily the developers did do that, shut it down, focused on the MMO, and now we're at this point where we can excitedly talk about, Alpha's played the game. Alpha has actually played the game.
We're supposed to
I haven't. Storms hasn't.
I have not played yet. But you realize when they said we have to rebuild combat from the ground up, they really had to, right? Mm-hmm. That's why they had to pull back so much.
Apparently, our last podcast was November 7th, 2019.
Yeah, it's been a while. Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
So we were depressed with this podcast at the beginning of November, and we stopped. Mm-hmm. And then you had all of November, all of December, January, February into March, where we did nothing, and the Battle Royale was just going do. Insane.
It's only recently when it suddenly started to pick up. Okay, let's talk about let's get into the ML Alpha. Let's go. Let's get going.
Even recording that 4K footage of an hour and a half of MMORPG map, MMORPG environment, mechanics, nodes going up, buildings going up, Alpha Soul being in the video, Sauce Please, all the people I recognize from the PI in the video. That video going out was the beginning of the optimism again.
Oh yeah, actually, I think you're right. That's when they finally got to see the world and you running around. That's when
actually see it, right? When you could have something tangible, digitally tangible, right?
And that gave content creators such as Lazy Peon, the gold, the green light, basically, right? to say, hey, I can believe in this again, or I can talk about my belief in this again, because we actually have this proof of the MMO for the first time in development period, 3 years. And then he made that phenomenally done video. So well done that I looked at it and I threw the white flag. And I'm like, I'm not making a summary video now. Why? I can't beat that thing. That was so intricately done, so beautifully done. There was no point in it being rehashed by the content creator. And it was so well done that it got the attention of all the big content creators, all the big streamers. And then Steven was like, hey, let's do this. And here we are now. Maximum optimism. Hype train has left the station and everyone's ready to go. Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And on top of that, COE and other companies, other MMOs just going under.
Oh, yeah, which, thank God it's not COE. COE, though, so... we've talked about this before. I think the difference between Ashes and the rest was you still had something playable and goals. Now the goals might not have been good goals as far as you remember back before the Battle Royale came out, and they had talked about bringing out the Battle Royale, and I think initially they had just said, hey, here's this Battle Royale kind of realm area that you guys can play around in, and it wasn't thought of that it was going to be something more than that, right?
Yep.
And then they morphed it into this is now a separate mode, APOC, and Ashes of Creation, and that's where it started going down a separate route. But their goal was still, let's test out the back end, and then kind of go from there. And I think I was going to say talking about it until they actually release, but I think they've hit that goal. It depends on, if their infrastructure is actually capable of holding up. But from what I've seen from the alpha, at the very least, it's we saw no technical delay or anything like that, even with a mass amount of people. There wasn't optimization there, but it held up fine.
And we're going to see that in this month's test because we've invited the Leader of Men level, right? So now we're going to see maybe even 300, 400, 500 people on the server.
They're talking 500. That's what they're talking. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Especially because of 500 people around one city or one village.
They have to wait until after the 27th.
Why?
I'm back in town. I'm out of town. I get back in town. Come on. You got to wait until after then. I want to be in.
Let me see. After the 27th. What is the... After the... Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, 27th. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there you go. Until I'm in Traverse City, I'm not telling you, I don't know if I'll have internet or not. So, got to wait.
Gotcha.
So for anyone who is stumbling on this right now while we're live, or anyone who's stumbling upon this podcast after the fact because you're like, hey, From the Ashes, I remember that thing. The three of us are temporarily taking the reins of this podcast. And we'll talk about this probably in a more official podcast in the next episode, right? When we actually have a structured podcast episode. We'll probably, I'm imagining, we'll address this in the beginning, right? So Ag is not gone. We're just waiting patiently for his return, and we're keeping his seat warm until he gets back.
Yep.
He will be back.
He doesn't have a choice. So I'll drag him kicking and screaming. Especially kicking and screaming.
Oh,
he won't have a choice.
He will not have a choice. He'll be back.
No. Also, I noticed that Arkanator has changed the sub icons.
He has changed some stuff.
What happened to my shield wall? Arkanator, what have you done? How dare you?
So, did you see chat mentioned? See, I can sometimes do more than one thing at once. The breadcrumbs. The whole, that new latest thing that came up the other day, breadcrumbs in a quest.
I'm going to drag this over here so I'm not facing away from the camera. Breadcrumbs in a quest. What are we talking about? Quests that lead to quests that lead to quests that eventually
the arrow above the arrow.
The
UI. Map, on the right, the UI portion of it, right?
Okay.
So, do you want to do a quest where it has that, or where you don't? Right?
I love them because when I'm questing, I don't want to have to read. I'm one of those people that skips quest text as fast as I humanly can.
Oh, I know, right?
I spam spacebar as much as possible. I just want to get going, right? I'm one of those guys that wants to optimize his playtime experience and go as fast and efficiently as possible. So having to read the quest text to figure out where in the world I'm going and in what direction, for me, is boring and is not fun. So for me, a simple arrow or a path, a little fairy dust path on the ground to show me where I need to go, makes life efficient for me, and I love efficiency. And there are some people who may not like that. I think the green giant arrow over your character is kind of breaking immersion. I can see that for some people. So BDO did that great. You had the arrow, or I mentioned the little path you can follow on the ground. You can make it like a nice little like golden glittering fairy dust kind of looking path.
I did like the auto run though on BDO, but that's okay. Because I can turn that on and I can do something else. But
it's so good.
I do like the ability of a quest where you can have a marker and then you can go to the marker and you have another marker to go to the next one, right? Or like in Red Dead, you have on the map, there may not be something above somebody, but on the map you can look for it, right? So you can see where it is, have an idea of where you're going.
I'm cool with that too. You don't need an in-game UI element to show you the path, but if they give you an icon on the map, like you said, you pull up the map, there's your icon, I'm cool with that too. I'm fine with that too. It's not as efficient or as fast or as easy, but it's good enough. If people want that immersion problem to be maintained.
So this is funny.
What was that?
I was saying, this is funny. I know why they posed that question, because within the first iteration of Alpha, they don't have any of that, right?
Yeah.
And it's literally, you have to read the quest and kind of, it's almost like a hunt to figure out if an NPC has, a quest or not. Because there's not even an indicator specifically if an NPC has a quest. It's like, I forgot it. It's like you could kind of tell if they were like green or something like that you could, potentially talk to them. It wouldn't necessarily tell you if it was a quest. And then you would kind of click through and eventually you would get a quest, as you read through from some of them, but not all the time. And then you just kind of got a general area and you kind of had to read from it. So yeah, I understand why some people are like, oh, that's great. You have to read for the quest, but in its current state, it kind of seems lazy, if you will.
Yep.
I'm sure they can come up with another way that's not like WoW, where it's pointing in the direction or anything like that. But I think it should be more clear than it is now.
Well, they can give you the option too, turn it on, turn it off, right?
Yep.
Like Red Dead, you can turn the mini map on or off. So
right.
You can turn it off if you want. You don't want to see it, turn it off.
So for me, best case scenario is literally a giant green arrow telling me where to go because I can care less. But that's me. I'm willing to compromise down. I'm willing to go down from that position. I'm cool with that. That's not a hill I'm going to die on, right? So the next step for me would be like a mini map and having the glowing dot on the mini map showing me the mobs I need to kill or the location to go to. That's the next step down. If people still find that too obtrusive on their immersion experience, I'm willing to step down again to hit the M key, open up the world map, and then go and then have the glowing icon that says go over here. I'm cool with that too. Just give me something. I do not want to be walking around blind in this world. I don't have time for that. I want to be as fast and efficient as possible. That's happiness for me. That's enjoyment for me. And the world map part, if you don't like that, you can just never open the world map and just go and do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And dodge that completely.
You got to pick and choose your limited amount of time, right? So how do you want to limit it and how efficient do you want to be? That's your choice. You got to give the user the choice of how they want to do it. If they want to be as immersive as they want, they don't have to open it at all. But if they want to have a little bit of hint, that's great.
Yeah.
This is in the vein of the DPS meter conversation and debates you find on the Discord and the forum, where you've got people who want to be efficient and want the tool, and the people that say, I don't want that, I want my immersion, I want my all blah, 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 and I don't want that. This is like a much smaller argument in that conversation, where some people are arguing for the quality of life features, and some people are arguing against it because they want a difficult game or an immersive game. So it's like, this is like the tiny small battle compared to the huge war that is the DPS meter conversation.
Turning on and off UI is not hard, right?
Not hard
at all. The question is really the purpose of something, whether it's the arrow, the quest arrow, or the DPS meter. And then Alpha disappeared.
Well, okay, I'm back.
And then, And then you're a smiling icon at this point. But that's okay.
I am? Hold on.
You're smiling icon, and Krojek disappeared.
Okay, turn on camera. Hey, where'd Krojek go?
He waved and disappeared.
Oh, okay.
But a DPS meter, it's not just immersion. It can be used as an exclusionary tool too, right? So you have a lot of guilds that will say, "I need a DPS of so and so to make it into a trial," right? Well, whether or not you're going to have that DPS tool, they're going to find a way to be exclusionary. One of the things before the DPS meter on ESO is you'd have to go to a specific world boss, and you'd have so many seconds to take him down. That was your DPS meter, right? So they'll find a way to be exclusionary, whether or not you have the tool or not.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the best way that I can put it is, okay, it's weird with the DPS meter because if you're saying there's no DPS meter, right, and you're saying that, okay, we don't want you to be able to measure against one another, cool. But that also means then that your encounters may not necessarily be DPS.
No enrage timer, no.
Exactly. No enrage timer, none of that, basically. None where you actually have to output an amount of damage. Because as soon as you enter that realm of saying, hey, you need at least X amount of damage in order to do this encounter, then you will breed the, okay, well, how much DPS are you doing? How much DPS are you doing? Because at the end of the day, if you have a tank, right, if your tank can't take damage, your group doesn't go anywhere. You die, right? Because the tank can't soak it up. If your healer can't heal, you die, right? Because there's no incoming healing. If your DPS can't DPS, right, then you don't kill it, basically, and you eventually lose by attrition, right? So I don't see how they're going to reconcile that point because, like you said, Storms, where there's a will, there's a way. If players need to figure out how much damage somebody is doing because the encounters rely on it, by golly, they're going to find out how to do it. They're going to figure out how to
discriminate by gear, discriminate by achievements based off of what you've killed. They'll find a way to pick and choose their characters. Now, I've mentally gone back and forth on this topic 7 times to say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And I've come to a final conclusion, and it's specifically because of one piece of information about how this game is structured.
Yeah.
Raids in games such as World of Warcraft are instanced, and they're timed, and there's enrage factors and all that kind of jazz. Raids in this game are 80% open world. So much less important. Your DPS and how much damage you're going to deal is going to be less important than surviving another raid coming in and whooping your butt while you're fighting that boss.
But they also said if there's two raids going at it, right? The more DPS gets the boss, the loot, right?
So here's what you do. You kill the other guild first.
Well, if they put out more DPS, then they're going to kill you first.
Right?
So there's your meter right there. You just kill the other one.
Well, but it depends on what, because, I mean, obviously they can PK and you can kill that way if you lose corruption. But I'm assuming that the corruption system is so onerous that they won't do that. That they won't do that, right? And if that's the case, then, it is a DPS race.
I think in the middle of a battle with the world boss, AoE's going everywhere. That corruption's going to be a hard thing to deal with.
Hold on. There's a toggleable. Hold on. Was it? I think you, as the spellcaster, can toggle in your settings a setting that allows your AoEs to hit flagged players, and if that happens, you become flagged for PvP.
Correct. That's what they said.
And your heals, deep damage and heals. Or you can turn that off so you're not accidentally hitting PvP flagged people, so you don't accidentally become PvP flagged. So in a raid scenario at endgame, when there's another guild nearby, you may want to have that turned on. But if it's I am a hardcore kind of guy. I love it. I love competition. I love metagaming. I love min-maxing. I love efficiency. It's my DNA. I don't need a DPS meter. I've talked about this before. I actually made a post on this in the forums, and people still argue with me. It was nuts. I don't need a meter. I don't need to know how much damage I'm dealing while I'm dealing it. If your concern is that you don't want people staring at meters, you want them staring at the boss fights and the mechanics and the encounter, I can see that. I'm fine with that. You don't want cluttered UI, because World of Warcraft's raiding experience is just UI all over the place. Dungeon boss mods and recount and all this jazz. You don't want that. That's cool. You don't want me focusing on how much DPS I'm dealing, but to focus on the boss fight. Cool. Give me an end of boss fight damage report. at the conclusion of the boss fight, whether it is successful or not successful, give me a report built into the game, not a mod, just the game does this, that shows me how much damage I've dealt, how much damage I took that could have been avoided, how many interrupts I missed, how much healing did I do that was excess, how much healing did I do overall, how many people did I let die. Give me that kind of report. Allow me, the competitive person, the opportunity to see this report and go, I need to do better. And then the next time I do it, it's better. And I'm like, hey, I improved. That's awesome. That's happiness. No DPS meter. Give me a report. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, that could work. That's, I think that accomplishes the same goal, especially if you're then throwing in and implementing something like, well, because they also mentioned that support classes will have a huge role, right? So another option, for reporting could be something as simple as, hey, you added this damage buff, so
that'd be great.
Did X amount more damage over time.
Yeah, based on the API, though, I see that being a mod, not a developer thing going in.
But they're really hardcore with their
complex.
They don't want add-ons or mods. They're really hardcore on that stance. So
I see how that's going to. If that's the case, right? There's going to be a lot of
under the table stuff built.
Well, it depends if they have APIs, right? If they don't have any APIs, you can't do it.
But when it comes to a DPS meter, if they somewhere in their code have a way of tracking data that's in a text file or damage that's in a text file, like a scrolling combat log somewhere, they're going to have people find a way to track that and turn it into a DPS meter.
The client and server set up. Yeah, absolutely, right? So
we'll
have to watch also where they're going to cheat engine, right? Because they're using that one cheat engine watcher, right? So you're going to have to worry about what they're going to have with all that. Because are you going to be flagged then as a cheat engine if you're watching all those things? Right. So, and when you mentioned excess healing, right? One of the problems with excess healing is, like, say for instance, one of the sets in ESO, one of them, when you heal somebody, actually multiple sets now, if you heal somebody with 100% health, you get a bonus.
Cool.
Right. So that's no longer excess healing.
Right. So, some games need to be mana efficient, some don't.
Exactly. Right. So it's different. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see how those sets roll out.
Yeah, absolutely. The DPS meter conversation is fun. And people in the Discord and the forums get a little frustrated by the DPS conversation, the DPS meter conversation. But I try to explain to people as calmly as I can that the reason this is continued to be brought up and will be continued brought up over and over from now until release is because it is important to people.
Yep.
Right.
And it's also hated by people. So it's just going to be a waging war back and forth. Steven has currently the stance of no add-ons, no DPS meters, but we are in development, and that can change.
Yep, that'll change. It might change.
It might not.
Now, what about flying?
I'm so glad. I love the way it's structured. Oh, I can't get enough of the structure. Every time when I'm talking, I'm doing a live stream, like just chatting about the game, because all we can do right now. I've got footage up. And in the footage, you see Steven and them flying around, showing dungeons and stuff. And I have to explain to the audience, guys, this isn't World of Warcraft. You have a server of 8,000 to 10,000 people. And among them, 10, 11, maybe 12 if we're lucky, depending on rare egg drops, right? 10 for sure, at the max, are going to fly.
Yep.
You're going to see a fly mount in this game, and your jaw is going to drop. So you're like, oh my god, that is the king of a castle or the mayor of a metropolis. Oh my god.
And it's only for that period of time.
Yep. Once for that month.
They're absolutely right. So to me, I don't like that.
No.
Right? To me, I like flying. Period. Right.
Oh yeah.
One of the things about a game I like, anything that flies, I love it. So to me, it's like, okay, for this game, I'll put it aside, but that's one of the things I enjoy about any game I play is I like the ability to fly. But yeah, for this one, it's extremely rare. So that's going to be different. So it's going to be different than like Ark. You pick up, you can fly 2 or 3 or 4 different things, right? So.
Yep.
All right. Now, what about the word sand park experience? What does that mean to you? Alpha, what about you?
Sand park experience. I heard Steven's explanation on it. It didn't quite make sense to me. I understand what he was going for.
TM. Sorry.
Was he trying to say half theme park, half sandbox? A hybrid of sorts?
Well,
he's trying to say.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get at, and he has a fair point that when a lot of developers think of sand park, it's almost like they have hands off creating content, right? Because the idea is that the players create the content, right?
Yep.
but it's misleading because I mean, obviously there's still a lot you can do without having to curate each of the tests, right? Because it's almost like the opposite experience of what is it, like when UO first came out, right? They quickly realized that they wouldn't be able to hire up enough people in order to continuously pump out content that would be able to satisfy a player base over continuous time, right? So the idea is to create content or systems that would allow players to make the content themselves.
Right.
I think that's what he's going for, or what they're saying that they're going to do, right? I don't know. Let me think on that one a little bit more. I didn't really pay it much thought, but it didn't really make too much sense. But
so what's a sandbox?
What is a sandbox?
Yeah, well, go ahead. Tell me what you think a sandbox is.
So a sandbox is it's a place where you have maximum creativity and can do whatever you want. So a lot of games...
Within reason, but okay.
We'll take something like GTA 5, Skyrim, things like that. There's a story, there's elements, but in Skyrim specifically, you don't have to follow the story to get hours and hours and hours and hours of enjoyment out of that game. You don't have to start with the main quest. You land in that first little town, and the main quest is like, hey, go to this place. And you're like, no, I'm going west. Then I'm going to this dungeon, and this thing happens. And then I'm going to go way to the north over here, and I find this cave, and I go in there, and all of a sudden this woman's talking to me. That's sandbox. Here is your sandbox, little Jimmy. Build the sandcastle, or build a trench, or build whatever you want to do. Go on your own adventure. Theme park is World of Warcraft. You come into the theme park, and there is the reputation grind ride, and there is the raid ride, and there's the battleground ride. So it's a whole bunch of little attractions inside your MMO. That's the theme park concept. So he wants to try and find somewhere in between.
So it's like a sandbox. You've got the ability in most cases to build, right? Not instance housing, but build a house, build a castle, build a whatever, right? Yep. BDO, BDO is closer to that sand park experience, right? You can build where you want to build within certain areas. Another smaller game, Citadel Forged in Fire, is sand park-ish, right? Because you can there's more quests than there used to be, and you can build where you want to build, things like that. But then there's like ESO and Warcraft, where you have to do their raids, their instance housing. So those are the theme park ones. So if you can combine that and the ability to do that, would be interesting.
Yeah, because in this game,
don't know where they're going to go with this.
You're going to be able to build your nodes in different areas, right? That's from freedom. That's a lot of freedom. You can skip your adventuring class completely and just go into crafting if you want to.
Have the nodes? I thought the nodes, again, I've been out of this for a while. I thought the nodes were predefined were they were going to be, but they they randomized somewhat what they were going to be, but they were defined where they were going to be.
I had a long stream discussion about this the other day. So from at first my understanding was such: 103 spots, and those 103 spots can spawn one of 4 types, giving you a whole bunch of combinations. Apparently that's not the case. Apparently those 103 spots already have a type predetermined, and it's you going out adventuring to find out which types are in what spots.
Okay, so they are predefined where they are.
So divided by 4, that means there's 25 military nodes on the world. There's 20 or 25 or 26. Also, why doesn't it split evenly? If there's 4 types, you have 103 spots. Which type is the short end of the straw and doesn't get that 26th spot? Why do that?
They probably were just placing them on that. We ran out of room.
You're assuming they're done evenly. You're assuming they're distributed evenly, though.
It should be, but no. One of them gets one less spot.
Well, what if one gets 10 less?
Or maybe.
Yeah, you never know, right? Okay.
I was arguing for full player autonomy, right? I was arguing for, I want to build a military node at this river point because I want to have sea boats that go out and attack things, but that's not how this works. And then I kind of realized, oh my goodness, if the developers were forced to design the encampment to the metropolis for all 4 node types with all 8 or 9 race architecture possibilities in all 103 locations based off of environments and stuff, my freaking goodness, that's a lot of work. So I can see why, for the sake of time, they would predetermine their locations and their node types in their nodes.
Depending on the build work. It was interesting they talked about their tools for world building. Right? That was very interesting. I'd watched some of the Bethesda videos on how they were doing the world builders, right? Where you've gotten to the point where you've got a world put together, and then you build tools to do that. So you can bring in people and you teach them and you show them how to build the world with the tools, so they don't have to be down level coders, right? They can use the tools to take a spawner and put it in one spot, and then you specify what's this, what's that, what's this. It's a great way to go about it.
And the developers spoke about their dynamic city building tools they were building that could make it so that no two metropolises looked exactly alike. And I thought, oh yes, we have this tool, so we're going to be able to build the 4 types in each of the 103 spots because they can be built dynamically. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Now, my chat gave me a valid point. This could be a balance issue. Because what if people really love the scientific node? Because A, mayor is done by voting, so popularity contest, and
Fast
B,
travel.
teleporting within your node. So what if people really like that, and all of a sudden on 103 node spots, you've got a bajillion scientifics and no religious nodes? I can see something like that kind of thing being why you may force 25 of each, or 26, however it works out. I can see that. To avoid the metagame of we're just going all scientific and just teleporting across the map like crazy. I can see that. Sucks that it removes that player autonomy from our decision making of where to build nodes and what types of nodes to build. Yeah, I can see that.
Interesting.
I can see it's going to balance.
The sacrifices you have to make so that, again, things are interesting and different.
Well, then
there's enough variety.
You're going to have to balance too when you have the Underworld, which was again a replacement, sort of, for fast travel, right?
Yep.
The ability to move through quickly is going to be interesting. And I think it is postulation that they will eventually add more fast travel.
Yeah.
I think they will. Of some type.
I mean, man, they could totally do that, even through Alpha 2.
So Atlas, right? Look at that one. It started out with no fast travel. And honestly, it was a pain in the butt. You would sail. I had to sail for 7 hours to get to another place to fight. It's just ridiculous, right?
That sucks.
Ridiculous. So what they did is they remapped it this year, and they basically brought all the islands within 2 hours of each other. Yeah. So it's like, well, okay, right? So you do something because people just aren't going to take that much time. They will find some way. There'll be some way to bring forward for fast travel. I don't know what. It may take a year, it may take 2, but they'll bring something forward.
It may not even make it to live without some form of fast travel.
It might not.
If during Alpha 2, and we have all the systems in place, the whole map's in place, everything's going, and we're testing everything, if they realize that people are getting around just too slow, they may add some stuff. Either like World of Warcraft-esque flight paths. They could do that, which is slower than instant teleportation, right? They can, or they can do slower moving zeppelins or something. They'll find their way to make it work so that there's just enough movement for people to get from place to place, but not so much that they can zerg. They'll find that balance.
That's it, right? You got to watch the ability. It's like an Ark where you can jump from bed to bed, but you can't take the stuff with you, right?
Yeah.
So that's that stopping point of zerg stoppage, right? We'll use that word. That you're going to be able to can't control everything with it.
I don't know. I don't think they will.
You don't think so?
No. I think I think their goal, I mean, maybe they'll be forced to do something like that, but I think their goal is to have, a plethora of different mini ecosystems so you don't have to necessarily travel all over unless you have a specific goal, like if you're a gatherer, for example. Because one thing that they did say that was very interesting was if you're a gatherer, resources will be placed throughout the world based on, how did he put it? It was like based on just where they will supposedly naturally occur, right? So, for example, iron may be concentrated in the northern northeast, mountainous region, and you won't be able to find iron, in the coastal regions or something like that. Whereas, so specific resources will be at specific areas that you can only get those from. And it's, and it's not necessarily like level based. Like if you go to the level 50 zone or whatever, or the 50 area, you're going to find 50 resources. That's not how it works at all.
And on top of that, we forget that since none of the auction houses are connected, right? Yeah. Between the 5 metropolises, when the server becomes more veteran, the auction houses are not connected. So if you're located in the Southwest and there's no good metal resources and your economy really needs that metal, someone's going to have to get a caravan from the north or the south to get you that metal. And if you give your opposing guilds flight paths or even slightly some form of traveling faster than foot, they'll cut you off. And that is no fun for the caravan system at all. If you allow people to head you off or to move around quickly.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's where trading comes in too, right?
Yep. So I can see why Alpha's saying they're never going to bother, because that's just kind of the way they want this world to work.
See how it pans out, right? I'm excited though. I'm really excited about playing this one.
Now that it's finally a thing.
I know, right? Now that it's a thing to play. I'm excited about it.
I mean, right now we've only dabbled in 3 of the classes in the alpha testing from what I've seen.
Yes. Right? Mage, tank, and
cleric.
I don't forget. Yeah, cleric.
So the Trinity, right? So what is going to be the struggle for content creators is going to be consistently reminding people that even the abilities you see in the classes that are existing right now, they're not final.
Yeah.
They're not. Some of them may not even make it to live. Things that we haven't even thought of may have been added before live. So look at what you see, appreciate it, enjoy the graphics, and understand that it's going to improve over time. Look at the mechanics and the spell effects and understand they're going to improve over time. But you really have to hammer. I'm going to have to hammer to people hardcore. Like, this is not done. This is all. This is going to be years out, plural, right? Alpha 2. My God, that map is huge. Have you seen the map, Stormslord?
No, I have not.
It's beautiful. I'm going to find it for you. It's beautiful, dude. You can even slap it up on the screen. It's the world map.
Oh, the world map. Yeah.
Like the D&D-esque style drawn world map. It's beautiful. Ashes of Creation. It's sideways, first and foremost. It's tilted sideways. It's not north-south. Right? If we think about a geological common sense where the poles are cold and the equator is warm, this thing's sideways because the snow's on the right side and the tropics on the left side. It's legit sideways. Because on the map, it actually doesn't say that this is north and this is south. That icon is copy image address, paste it in the Discord chat. So Stormslord can take a look at the world map.
The world map.
It's big and it's beautiful. And it gives us a hint as to where the gates are going to be located and what races are going to predominate those gates. I already I 200 IQ'd it in a stream. It was hilarious. Vera is flat. Chat saying Vera is flat. It could be.
Could be.
Demon has not said whether if you sail west off that western island, which is technically not west.
No, he did. I think he did.
Give us clarification.
It's flat. I don't think it's
just barriers. You can't go west east.
I forgot where he said it, but I'm pretty sure he said it.
He said you can't go around the back of the world.
Yeah. It's I don't think he ruled it out completely.
We're gonna wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he ruled it out completely, but I think I'm almost 100% positive he mentioned this. But
yeah. All right. Let's see if we can do this. See if we can put a picture of the map up.
Oh yeah, we'll open up Twitch again. Take a look at it. Add image basically.
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
Nailed it. Let me pull up the stream. Take a look.
I took over the entire stream. It's one big map.
Oh my God! You gotta shrink that thing. It's too big. There we go. He's getting it.
There you go.
This is an amazing listening experience, but this isn't really an official podcast.
There you go. It's not. It's the.
Make it bigger. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So notice how the snow is on the right side, and then you can see the islands over there, which are tropics, because the palm trees on the left side. This thing's sideways.
Apparently, or the world is sideways. One of the two.
Or it's wizards and magic and stuff, like because wizards and magic and stuff. But if this was simply following geology, the snow is either in the South Pole or the North Pole, and the tropics are towards the equator, logically. So I don't know if that snow is north or south, if it's geological sense, or again if there's a snow dragon in that area. That
and he's a heavy breather. A heavy breather.
It happens.
There you go.
A couple things I like about this map: that big old stretch of water down the middle.
Well, for sea battles, that'll be awesome.
Yo, you want to trade east-west, baby? You got to go through the ocean. Mm-hmm. There's no trade between the two land masses that don't go through the water. unless the Underrealm is spanned between them.
That'll be interesting. Right? Where does that go?
Because from what we know, the Underrealm is roughly, they gave us numbers can change, 100 square kilometers, and the surface world's like 480. So the Underrealm is roughly 1/5 the size of this map. Does that 1/5 span? Does it span the two sides?
It could.
That could be cool. I think it should. Strictly from a gameplay, to give people a reason to go down there, even if it's just to get to the other side, like, chicken crossing the road.
Well, my job is to get across every little place. That's what I do on the map. On a map, my job is to go to everywhere. That's what I do. So
yeah, absolutely.
I want to see how truly big it is, but I'm actually kind of worried. I'm kind of worried that the world might be too small. The reason why I'm saying that is it's the, what is it? 10,000 people per server?
Yep.
10,000 people per server, freeholds.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Oh, I think I'm almost certain there's not going to be enough freehold space for all the people.
That's why
we have instance apartments, remember? And in node housing.
Right.
Especially the instance apartments.
Yeah. So what I'm worried about, though, is the UO aspect, right? In UO, one of the things that was kind of funky, especially in the old world, was there was just freaking housing everywhere, right?
Yep.
You'd be running in the woods and you'd be ducking in between, 3, 4, 5 houses.
Yeah,
and
that's
run past yeah. And so we'll see how it is, but it could be a potential immersion killer. I don't know.
It depends. Are they instant housing or is it build your own?
Freehold are in the world visible to everyone.
Yeah,
right, but
they're the rule around the outside.
Right, but is it instanced? In other words, it's already there, or is it just plop where you want to?
It's drop where you want to within the zone of influence of the node, and that zone of influence increases based off the node's level, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Metropolis has more land, therefore more freeholds in the Metropolis zone of influence outside the city walls.
Let's see how that's going to work then.
So they're going to have to pick a number. They're going to have to say freeholds in a Metropolis are 50 or 30 or 70. They'll have to pick a number, right?
Yeah.
And not everyone's going to have a freehold spot.
Yeah,
which
there's
means
going to be a limit.
The people who don't are going to look at that Metropolis and go, I have a freehold. Screw this Metropolis. This guild attacking this Metropolis? I'm going to help. I want a freehold. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And remember, just because you don't get a freehold within the Metropolis' zone of influence, the cities that are vassals will have their own. And then the towns that are vassals of the cities or whatever will have their own. Village. I think village is when you start the freehold stuff. Right? So it's not just the 6 metropolises. It's also the cities and towns and villages all throughout the land that can also offer you citizenship via freehold. But you're right, Alpha. You don't want that thing where, oh my god, no matter where I step, I'm stepping on somebody's lawn. I'm just trying to get to the metropolis, but I'm stepping in this dude's garden, and now I'm stepping on this guy's patio. You don't want that.
Yeah, but they're doing emergent design, so as they go through this, they're going to change some things to accommodate that.
Especially some of the... You guys remember... all of our reviews of all the cosmetics we've had every month, and often there is a freehold skin in there, and often there is a freehold skin of this massive, ginormous mega structure, and you're like, how on earth is that going to fit in a freehold? Those massive mega structures are going to litter the land around metropolises and such.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They may have to relook at that. I think they might.
Like Colosseums, towers that go into the sky for necromancers and stuff.
Colosseums, they may be like really small. They look from a distance.
From the concept art, you've got steps, and those steps need to be human size. We're not making Colosseums for ants.
Well, maybe you are.
Maybe you are.
Well, maybe you are. Yeah, we did define print. Come on.
Define print. Or maybe the largest structures are only buildable at the metropolis level, and they just because
right?
Oh, that reminds me. So the land space of a freehold is half an acre, and in the wiki, said by Steven, is it will not automatically increase in size your acreage based off of the city level, but you'll be able to purchase expansions for it. Which means if at village level you have your half acre plot of land for your little stuff, if you do want to build that big old Colosseum that you want to build, you're probably not going to be able to build that to the metropolis because you have to wait until like 2, 3, 4, 5 land expansions additions to your freehold that you purchase to give you enough ground space for your large structure. Which logically means that these big mega structure cosmetics we have will most likely only be usable on larger metropolis or city level freeholds who have enough expansion slots added on to accommodate these things. So the village isn't going to have this giant necromancer tower outside of it. Hopefully. Maybe it does.
Yeah.
Maybe it does. Isn't this nice? Talking about actual
this is it,
right?
We're getting going again.
Yeah.
Alpha's distracted by something.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing Galaga or Pong.
That man is playing Galaga. There you
Tetris.
Go. No, my recent game is Horizon Zero Dawn, but I'm not playing it right now.
Such a good game.
It is.
And
I'm actually
Sivian,
pretty impressed by it. Yeah.
Sivian, you are correct. I believe you can only have one freehold per account. So I don't think you can have alts with freehold as well.
Yeah, one freehold per account.
And I think it was one IdNode housing per server. I think I read somewhere the other day. So basically, I can't be a landlord and own like 7 IdNode housings. You wouldn't be able to do that in the beginning of the game. But as you become more veteran and a village pops up, you're like, hey, I'm going to buy out this whole village. Buy out all the IdNode housing in this village. Level it up. Sell it all.
Was there a limit on it?
I believe it is 1 per server was what I read. I will pull up the wiki and double check.
No. I mean for like how much housing they can offer. Because I got the impression there was no like limit since instanced.
So there's 2 types of housing in the notes.
Right.
Instance apartments, which is the mayor must decide to erect an apartment building that has instance apartment rooms in it for people who want to have housing.
And then there's the set buildings. Yeah.
Separate physical IdNode buildings, which are limited in space and number.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's those IdNode housing that you buy at the village stage that by the metropolis become mansions because you're in the inner ring. And every time the city goes from a village to a town to a city, it expands. And new housing's added, but the inner housing levels up for free.
I wonder if they're going to
change that. I think we lost Alpha.
Freehold areas.
Oh,
he's back.
He got
Say it again, Alpha.
I wonder if they're going to do it like not Horizon. Sorry, I wonder if they're going to do it like Arcade, where there are housing areas that you can go and place your freehold. Like, I wonder if they're going to settle on that rather than just letting you place it anywhere in the world. Because the other thing because they said that you can only place it.
He's getting tired.
He's stopping mid-sentence. Alpha, we're losing you, buddy. R.I.P. Alpha. You might be gone permanently.
He had a good point, though. I don't know what it was, but it was a good point.
That was an amazing point. Whatever he was trying to say,
awesome.
I am passionate about this. I have an amazing point right now. He was talking about freeholds having specific areas to be built in and not just slapped down anywhere. Yeah. From my understanding,
I think they will.
The village has a zone of influence around it. It's a circle, right? A radius around it. And from my understanding, freeholds can go anywhere in that zone.
Yeah.
Which means you might have some like
zone, though.
Facing this way, some facing this way, some facing this way. Yeah.
And I wonder if you're going to have if the village is going to have any structure. Whoop! He disappeared, so his camera's gone. So we're all goofied. So we're going to give him a second to pop back in, which he did.
Here he comes.
And then, if the village have any say on where people sit, is of that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look! What was your point? It was a good point.
Sorry, where did I cut off at?
You're making a point about how freeholds can either be placed in specific spots or be placed willy-nilly around the place.
Yeah, okay. So what I was trying to say is I wonder if they're going to actually do it like Arcade, right? Mm-hmm. Where you have a certain area they can actually place it. Because your comment just reminded me that there actually are like 3 different housing options that people have.
3 total.
Right? You've got your forever, however many people can get it. Instance housing, depending on if a mayor throws up the apartments, right? You've got the set housing where you grab it as fast as you can, and it levels as the node levels, and more pop up as the node levels. You've got those that are static numbers and that appear and grow, and then finally you've got the freeholds, basically, right?
Yeah,
and
they're like a rural farmland around the city.
Exactly, and you can place those anywhere. Oh, by the way, that actually No, there's got to be a limit now that I come to think of it. So think about this. Nodes occupy all of the spaces in the world, right? They said that. 103 nodes.
Yeah, there's technically 103 nodes around this giant map.
What happens when you place a freehold down and the node grows?
Ooh.
Does it grow around you, right? Or does it push yours back? What the heck happens?
I would think it could grow around you.
It couldn't.
Sure.
Could it?
Sure it could. It's
like all of a sudden, my farmland is in the middle of the city.
It gets annexed and turns into something else, right? It's like New York. It came in and took over this other things as it annexed. It took in other farms and graveyards and all that became,
Do they force you to re-drop your freehold outside the town walls?
Right, because if you start, let's just take it. I think they said we don't know when the limit is where you can drop freeholds. I presume it's at any time, right? That you can throw down a freehold.
I think it's at Village Days.
Okay, fine. Village Days. Let's say you throw down a freehold at Village Days, right?
Yeah.
And you plop it down as close as you possibly can to the town, because your intent might be to do something like, hey, I want to build a bar or a tavern, right? With my freehold, right? Because that's something that they talk about frequently, and I want people to inhabit my establishment, right? So that's what you do. Well, naturally, the town grows and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And naturally, it should overrun that. And we've already seen the videos where the freehold kind of comes up. But in order to make that work, to Storm's your point, they're going to have to grow around it, right? And you can't place buildings that have, it's almost like it'd be. And then the question would be, okay, well, cool. The freehold is there. What happens if the freehold blows up? Is there not a huge empty space? Can somebody else put something there? Does another automatic town or automatic building pop up? Now this freehold thing has me asking a whole bunch of just questions in my head of how it's going to work, especially with
Well, they may not know yet either, right? They may have a design, they may have a concept, but until they start coding it and see what works, they may we may have to go back and rethink what we're talking about.
So here's what we have on that so far: freehold placement. It may be placed anywhere in the ZOI of a stage 3, which is the village or higher, and they must not be in close proximity to any of the following: pathing routes or roads, no covering roads. Okay. Dungeons or other points of interest, regardless of the advancement of the nodes. You can't cover dungeons or anything like that. Or I think since it says regardless of the advancement of the node, I think it means that places where a dungeon would spawn if the node becomes like a city or metropolis.
Okay.
Not accidentally covering future points of interest.
It'll probably give you
spawn areas. Spawn areas are classified as race starting. No, that's not it. Divine gateways. No information on spawn areas. So is that like mob spawns? Like enemy mob spawns, maybe? Other freehold plots, you can't cover that. And hard terrain features like mountainsides or cliffs. Nothing about the node that you're inhabiting. Nothing.
Right. And because it just, you would have to build around it now that they come to think of it, right?
Yep.
You as the node pops and comes down, as it comes up, you would have to ignore the freeholds that are around it. And then what happens? Then I'm thinking in my head, okay, well, what happens if you surround the node with freeholds, right? Let's just say a whole bunch of people run up. They're like, I want my freehold here, and it forms a circle around the node, and that's it. That's at a village, right? And then it pops up to the next stage. Well, what happens then? Where do the new buildings go, right? Do they get pushed out even further, or
they go outside the buildings? Yeah.
There's two easy solutions that I don't like either of for this. The first easy solution is the freeholds can only be placed at the maximum distance that a metropolis would take up to start. I hate that solution.
No, I don't like that one.
So if your village is here and the metropolis goes to here, you're starting. Yeah, that's stupid. It would solve it, but it's dumb.
I thought about that. I don't think that would solve it. Because if you have 103 nodes with 103 potential metropolis examples, right, that would theoretically cover too much space. So I'm wondering how much leftover would be, if any. If you
the second solution, which is a simple solution, but a feels bad one from an immersion standpoint, is the moment that the node pops and stretches and expands, everyone's freeholds are put into their inventory in a little box. that they can just go back out into the world and select a new spot.
I think
and go,
this is going to work like the real world. It's going to just go around it, right?
It's
just going to pop around it.
Right. That's the real world, logical, immersive, realistic solution.
And then you're going to be given a choice. What do? Do I change my farm into something else because I'm inside the city now, or do I leave it as a goat farm? Right? What do I do?
And since as the parent node levels up, you're allowed to purchase expansion spaces for your freehold, so you have a bigger freehold. You can't do that if your freehold's swallowed by the town because there's a door there and there's a building there. You can't expand for it. The whole situation is just awkward.
God, I want to ask him this question.
This is a really important one.
Make a list of questions. There you go.
This is a good one. Someone write this down. Like, this is a good question. Maybe he doesn't have an answer, like Storm said.
Yeah.
Maybe they've thought of it and they say, we'll see and we'll figure it out later.
Design. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. It's been an hour.
Oh, yeah. All right. Good trial run.
Good trial run. We'll start the official next episode.
Yeah.
Next week.
We'll actually announce it next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next Thursday? Same
time, same bad channel.
Preemptive. I'm calling in house moving on the following, the 27th. Which is probably right around their official dev live stream.
That's actually when I'm getting home from Traverse City, so the 27th, I probably won't be here either.
There you go. So 27th. Unless we move it to like the 25th.
Or the 28th, one or the other. But we'll talk about that next week.
Yep, exactly.
All right. 9 o'clock next week. And
thanks for being here,
there. Thank you all for chat room. I saw that once or twice.
All of our technical difficulties to start.
Yeah.
All right. We're signing off.
Good night, guys.
Good night.